And are we about to start? There we go. Welcome everyone to Star Station TE. In the bottom right, we have playing in the day-night show matches tonight, Atomic, sporting the blue as the Zerg pieces. His opponent in the top left, we have have the yellow Protoss. I'm sorry, it's getting a little bit late and I'm confusing myself there. But, okay, so these guys, they did face off against each other when I was not casting. So I didn't really get to see this game too much. I did put up the VOD, so I kind of got to see, like, the end result of it, kind of. But it was I didn't really get to see the itty-gritty details. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. Kind of feels like something new for me. And, okay. So Star Station, very interesting map for this matchup. I gotta say this, it honestly gets a little bit wonky for Protoss when they go out for their third base. This is a very easy map to harass with, if with Mutalisks or with Zergling run-bys, if the Protoss's positioning is poor. Often what you'll see is that Protoss will tend to try and cover their base with some static defenses in key locations to slow things down a little bit, in addition to positioning their army usually more toward the third. Or a lot of players will just go straight up for a two-base engagement altogether and try to prevent that from ever even happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that here. This is a bit bigger than a lot of the other two-player maps, though, as Star Station was once a four-player map in its own right. And as a result, it's not maybe perfect for that playstyle. But so far, we actually look like we see a wall-off coming up here at the ramp for Scipio. And I think he's setting up to take an expansion. So this is the Gateway expand style. I'm actually really excited to see this because this is not something that I get to see very much. A lot of players who go for more the Forge style. Not necessarily because it's better, but just because it's a little bit easier to execute. This style requires very good game sense. It requires that you understand what your opponent's going for, what you can get away with, and what you need to worry about at all times. So it's a lot more reactionary than the Forge Fast Expand. It doesn't have as much of a catch-all. It also has another weakness in that it can't really stop fast thirds very well from the Zerg. So, and of course the Pro getting caught there at the ramp. No additional scouting information that he can pick up from that. Okay, gas is coming down. Submarine score is just finished. So this just looks like a pretty usual timing on everything we expect to see. No Forge coming out. That means again that you can get that hatchery down without worrying about it being cannon rushed, which is one of the big threats you have to really keep your eyes focused on early on. Zerglings are going to be able to get up here. They're not going to be able to get into the base and do any actual scouting, so he isn't really going to know one way or the other if a Forge isn't there. So this is a nice little bit of work we see from Scipio. He'll get up to the front, does check out that, does see the expansion down there, and now he's going to pull his Lings back and probably just kind of keep them close to the front so he can do a little bit of scouting later. Roach Warren is just about to finish back home. Now, this Roach Warren doesn't necessarily have to be indicative of a all-in or a rush of any kind. It can be used for that. It can happen if the Zerg decides to go in that direction. But what it does do is it gives the Zerg some flexibility when it comes to reacting to possible threats. So, okay, three roaches coming out right away. Now this, on the other hand, is more indicative of some kind of pressure. Let's see if that's what Atomic has planned for us right now. There is a period of time while going for this expansion where it's going to be a little bit light on defensive units. You can see he has next to no stalkers and is going from here up into a robo. So if the roaches are able to hit fast enough, they may be able to get some damage done before the Immortals are really able to get out on the field, when the only units that are actually there to deal with it are going to be Zealots, which can be kited pretty easily. Also, yeah, there you go, Game Heart logo. We are using Game Heart Lite right now. Fantastic custom game, usable. And this actually has a number of neat little features, like it tells you when key upgrades are about to finish in the bottom right-hand screen, just above the unit selection. And of course, dovetails very well with the Game Heart interface that you can actually download and use pretty much in any replay. It's really, really nice stuff. Roaches are gathering over at the front watchtower. Should be seeing them come up for an attack any moment now. Initial build time on the Robo is spent on an observer, so if this was some kind of burrow rush, that would be helpful in this situation, but it's not obviously going to be as good as an Immortal. The attack still hasn't quite commenced just yet. Now, this is not something I'm 100% certain on, but I think with this, there's a very thin moment of, like, a very thin slice of time where it really needs to get this attack started, or the defenses just simply become too much. And we might be seeing that actually happen here with this Immortal. Now, the tricky part of this is that a lot of these Zealots are probably going to die in this initial part of the fight here, and he may lose his expansion. He probably won't be able to... Atomic probably won't be able to push up the ramp, just because that's going to be where, you know, you're going to have force fields and Immortal up there. It's a lot of firepower, and it's very risky. Okay, Zerglin runs up to the front, sees a lot of Zealots, couple sentries, hasn't seen the Immortal, which is now in play, and here comes the rest of the Zerg forces up for the attack. Zerglings are positioned at the front. We have a decent number of Roaches here. Zerglings are dancing in front of the Zealots. They do engage them, and here come the Roaches in for the attack. The Immortal is now in position. He's trying to move forward to actually snipe the Immortal down. Is not quite able to do it. Great micro from Scipio actually holding that back. Force fields are moving the Roaches out of the way of the Zealots a little bit difficult there. Losing one there. Losing already a few here and there. Forces are getting a little bit thin for the Protoss here. And here comes some reinforcement Roaches. And, you know, at this point, as you can see, like, it's getting a little bit tricky for the Protoss. It's getting a little bit low on units, but it's enough that the Zerg has to be somewhat concerned about a second Immortal coming out. So he's backing off to gather some more forces, and it looks like he's going to be diving in for another attack. Scanning up at the top does see the Robo base, so he knows what his opponent's eventual goal is, to get those Colossus up. He even sees that it started to research. Another Immortal is already in the field. Now, this is a little bit of a dangerous situation here. He may lose this Immortal. Nope, okay, he's going to be able to pull back and get the second Immortal in. Not to mention a Photon Overcharge. This is a lot of damage onto this Roach army, and unfortunately nothing that they can really get done here. It looks like he might, again, damages the Immortal, but is not really able to take it out. It's really just lost a lot of Roaches without really any real gain at all. Only was able to kill some Zealots there. Didn't really get any probes. Still producing more Roaches. And I think he's just kind of hoping here that his opponent is going to back off a little bit on the army production, and he'll just be able to push him over. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Once this Colossus gets out, there might be a little bit, just basically a little bit too much damage potential at the front to break this. But you're going to go in for one more try. A lot of Zealots there. Colossus in play as well as an Immortal. Photon Overcharge just finished. Was able to get a few shots off. And it looks like Atomic's just going to back up from here. Now we're actually getting into this really weird, awkward situation where the Zerg does not have a third, and the Protoss is trying to get one. And if he does manage to get that up, it's going to be pretty much lights out from an economic standpoint. It's already pretty dicey. The fact that they're going to be kind of equal here, it doesn't necessarily have to be it from here on. Spire coming up for the Zerg in this situation. Looks like he wants to try and see if he can compositionally kill his opponent. It's going to be pretty hard to get a lot of mutas out. Okay, Roach is actually engaging at the front of the natural here from Scipio. Looks like one was lost due to a decently placed force field. Trying to move in and attack the army. Good force fields cutting the Roaches in half. A lot of them not able to engage here. Losing them one by one. Not being able to kill the Colossus. Excellent control from Scipio. Wow. I gotta say. This is really impressive stuff. Time Warp going down on the army. Not going to be able to get away too easily here. Going to probably lose at least one more Roach. And falling back from here. So the important thing for Atomic at this point is not that this necessarily does damage, but that he sees that more anti-air isn't coming out. If he can get a decent number of Mutalisks out, which unfortunately he's put a lot more gas into Roaches, so that eventual count may only be as high as maybe 3, maybe 4 Mutalisks as the Spire finishes. Could maybe get a couple Corruptors out, but this defense is going to be very, very difficult here. Creep is going to be in play. It's going to help. It's going to have a lot of Zerglings as well, some static defenses. If he can just keep the forces back for a little bit. The Colossus are really doing a number on the Zerglings, though. Down they go. And there really aren't any force fields left in this army. No Guardian Shield to work with either. Engaging into this, I think, would be rather unnecessary for the Protoss. All he really probably wants to do here is keep the Zerg pinned so he can go after that third. Colossus are actually just idling forward on their own, doing a little bit of damage up to the front here. That range does allow them to actually eventually pick off these spine crawlers. 2 more Colossus have just been produced. Looks like he's actually doubled up on his production with that, and now he's moving across the map. Almost reached 600 gas for Atomic. He's trying to avoid building any gas units. You can see that he's building Queens, he's building Zerglings. Trying his best to just barely see if he can get to that air army. Now there is actually one more important element to this, and that is an Observer, which has actually been sitting over Atomic's army the entire time. So Scipio is going to know immediately when these roaches come out. Here comes the engagement up at the front here. The Zealots are actually doing a little bit of work on the roaches, but the fact of the matter is he can't really get close enough to do anything about the Colossus, and those laser beams just keep spreading damage, beam after beam after beam over the entire army. Looks like we're trying to get double upgrades for Atomic. This is a tricky situation. His opponent has 1-1. He knows he has to do that. It looked like he wanted to get the Spire for an eventual transition. He has the gas for that now, but unfortunately not the minerals. So, yeah, this is just the situation you find yourself in when you're this far back on bases. And now we have a ton of sentries in this army, which means there's a lot of force fields. You can start putting force fields onto the ramp, preventing reinforcements from getting down there, and just really lock the Zerg into a situation that he basically can't escape. Corruptor's coming out. Okay, this is probably a good choice in this situation. The Mutalisks might be a little bit too easily dealt with. You notice that we have some static defenses back home. Templar Archives coming out. The Corruptors may give him the ability to shoot down the Colossus, giving the rest of the army the ability to engage here, but it's still going to be pretty tricky, and the reality of the matter is he's going to be behind on upgrades probably for the rest of the game. And I imagine that for the Protoss, he could push here. If he sees an opportunity, he probably will. Okay, he's going to go straight for it right now. He's got the Zealots up at the front trying to engage with them. And the defenses are such that he's able to do some work there. A couple Corruptors have come out. Not enough, though, and they just get shot down by the anti-air that's already present in the army in the form of sentries and stalkers. And I'd say at this point that, at risk of overextending himself, and you can see him falling back here, trying to deal with these Corruptors as well as he possibly can, he more than likely is just going to slowly push these defenses down. We're probably seeing the end of the game here. Now, yeah, it's tricky. I originally was thinking Mutalisks with that, and that would do decently well against this army if he was able to get high enough numbers of them, but I don't think that was really a possibility in this game, just with how far behind the third really was for most of the game. Just wasn't really getting that out very quickly. And now he's sitting on top of the production. The Corruptors are going to go down, but even if they did kill the Colossus at this point, what good would it really do? There's just no way to get the army up to actually even kill the gateway units anymore. Drones are falling left and right, and now that upgrade, which was just about to finish, is never going to get done. So we have +2 attack and armor, +1 armor for our Protoss, and that does it. GG.